go.
Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to wire up a switch. This is just a regular single pole switch, rated for 15 amp 120 volt circuit. If you look at this, you'll see that there's brass terminals and a ground. When you're wiring up a switch, all you do is you wire the hots. You don't connect a neutral to a switch. All you do is hook up your hot and your ground. I'm going to show you how to wire it. What I got here is a scrap piece of lumber, and I got two wires, one representing power coming in, one representing power going out. Now with a switch, you can either use it to wire up lights or use it to wire up, sometimes you'll see a switch wired up to an outlet, so you can control the outlet via switch. But this is a 14-2 cable, and this is a 15 amp, so it goes with that. But let me show you how I do it. Okay, first I start off with my grounds, and I hand lace those together. What I do is I kind of cut this one a little short. Then I use my lineman pliers to connect my ground really good. It's a lot easier if it's in a wall. I'll make this connection ground really tight. Okay, got that real. I'll get these out of the way. And go back to and cut this back a little shorter. Okay, let me grab it. Lineman pliers, twist that ground up real good. Okay, got a real good connection on my ground. Sometimes code requires you to put a little crimp over it, slip it over and crimp it down, but I'm not doing that here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is make up my neutrals, because when you're doing a switch, you don't switch the neutral, you switch the hot. So let me get my neutrals ready. I like to leave it a little long. I'll strip it back pretty long. I'll show you why. I like to strip it back long so that I can make a really good connection with my lineman pliers. I start up here. I'll make these just grab and I twist. I even like to get it. Even like to get a couple twists on my actual wires. It's okay, don't. Okay, so twist. Make good tight connections. And I like to cut it back. Then I use a yellow wire nut. And these are for 14 gauge. These are rated. You can put 1 up to 3. So this is good. I make my neutral connection with wire nut. Nice and tight. And now when you're doing a switch, your neutrals are done. You don't do any more with the neutrals. You can just cram those back in the box. Nice and neat. Okay. Now with the switch switches the hot leads. So you can strip these back a little bit. Okay. Make little loops. Okay, so far you can see I got my 2 loops made in my hots. My neutral is made up because when you're doing a switch, you don't hook your neutrals don't get hooked to the switch at all. The only thing you hook up to your switch is your hot and your ground. Okay, so I got my neutrals made up in the box. I cram that in, get it out of the way. I got my loops up. Now when you wire up a loop on a terminal, you want to make sure you're wrapping it in a clockwise rotation, so that if you did it this way, when you tighten it down, it would have a tendency to come undone. So you want to make sure your loops go in a clockwise manner. And also when you're doing a terminal and you slip the wire over, you want to make sure this part, the insulation, is not caught underneath this, so when you tighten the screw down, it doesn't crimp your insulation. So what I like to do is I slip the hot on, and then I kind of give it a little crimp, like so, and then you can tighten it down in a clockwise manner, nice and tight. You do your other loop same way. What I do is I use my pliers, just grab a hold of the wire and pop it in, push it, hold it, and use your pliers to give it a little crimp like that. Make sure your insulation is not underneath the terminal, and you tighten it down in a clockwise manner, nice and tight. Now on this switch, the ground is up here. So you do your ground here. You make a little loop, the wire. But when you do your ground, clockwise manner is this way, so you want to make sure your loop is facing down. You just wrap it around here, like so. Give it a little crimp with your pliers, like so, and tighten it up nice and tight. Okay, now your switch is wired. What it looks like in your box. Like I said, neutrals don't get connected to switches. Switches only make or break the hot. So get everything ready, make it nice and neat. Organize this, and you go ahead and cram it back in the box. And when you cram it back in the box, you use these screws right here, and you screw it in here. You just kind of push it in, nice and neat, and you just screw it down.